Welcome to Homa Studio's Python for Beginners series. In our first video, we'll be installing Python, Idle, which comes installed with Python, and Visual Studio Code. We're going to download that and install it as well. We won't do a whole lot in this video, and this will be for the Mac version, and we'll also do a video for the Windows version. For the first part of our Python beginner series, we're going to install Python. Now I'm doing this on a Mac right now. Eventually we'll do it on the Windows side, but I'm more familiar with a Mac. That's what I work on mainly. So I'm going to do it on the Mac side first. So I'll go through that process and then I'll do it on Windows. Now before we even download Python from python.org, which we'll do on this Mac, what you can do is if you have Terminal available, now I have Terminal down here in my dock, but if you're not sure where Terminal is or how to launch it, you can just go to your Applications folder and look for Utilities, and Terminal will be in there, and you could launch Terminal from there. And Terminal should come up with your username in here, your main directory on your computer for your Mac. And one thing you could do is if you just type in Python and hit Enter, it'll show you any versions installed on your computer. Now it's showing me Python 2.7.10. I could have also entered Python -- version. Now I'm in the Python prompt right now, which means I can actually put in Python code. Now it would have to be 2.7 version. We're going to install the new version, but we're in a Python prompt, so we could do things like print hello world, stuff like that that you always see on all these kind of videos that they start, and then it prints out hello world. So it can do Python right in here. It doesn't really do anything beneficial for you right now, but we're actually in Python, so you could test things out. Now to get out of here, it's probably more important to figure out how to get out of here. Just type quit with parentheses and hit Enter, and that takes you back out again. So we're out of that kind of Python prompt. So there is an interpreter installed here, but it's for 2.7. Now I could have also done Python space -- and put version in here and then hit Enter, and that would have just told me the version without kind of launching me into this Python interpreter. That's telling me the version. Now I don't have the newest version, so that's what I want to install. So I'm going to just quit out of Terminal, and I'm going to go to python.org, and I'll download the newest version. And there it goes. It shouldn't take that long, 26 megabytes. It's 3.73. It's the end of May 19 right now. Okay, it's downloaded as a package, so I'm just going to click on it and go through the installer. And you shouldn't have a lot to do here. Just hit continue. I'm sure you're not going to read any of this. Agree to everything. That's what you always do. And you don't even have to worry about where you install it. It should put it in with your application, so I'm going to hit install. And actually, there it is right now. It's actually installed right in my Applications folder. Now, inside your Python folder, you'll see something called Idle. Idle is a code editor that comes with Python by default. It doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles, but you can do some things with Idle, and you could check it out. And I'll check it out right now just to see what it does. I'll double click on it, and you can see it has a shell, and it takes me right into the Python interpreter. And I could type Python code in here right now if I wanted to. What I can also do with Idle is create new files. So I could go here and say File, New File, and just create a new file. And I'll just put something real basic, like a print function. And I'll put in quotes here, hello from Idle, just so I know where that's coming from. And that's a built-in Python function. And I'll just do that just to try it out. Now I'm also going to save it as a Python file, which is also considered a module or a source code. And I'll say File, Save As. And I'll just go into my documents. I just made a HS Python folder here, and I'll save it in here. And I'll just call it hello for now. And I'll put, I guess I'll put hello Mac, because we might do one from the Windows side, but I'll just put hello Mac.py, and I'll save that. Now when it's in here, this is the code. Now if you want to run this, they have a run function here where you could say run module. And what it'll do is it'll run it in your shell, and there's the output. So this was the input from the function that we did in this code editor in Idle, and it also has a shell for your output. Now you could do the same thing when you go to Terminal. If I went back to Terminal, I could go here and say Python 3, and that would take me into the interpreter. Now I don't want to be in the interpreter because I don't want to type in any code, so let me quit out of here right now. But what I could do is I could go into the folder that I have that file stored. Now one thing, you could do a couple bash commands here, and I'm just going to say, I'm going to do ls just to see what directory, what I'm seeing here. And you can see I want to go into documents. So I want to go into the next folder that I'm in right now. So I'm going to go inside of documents. So what I'll do is I'll do cd space, and I'll put documents, and I'll hit enter. And that means I'm in the documents folder, and I could do ls again and hit enter. And now you can see I want to go into this folder, the hs-python folder. So I could do cd again, change directory, and I could do hs-python. And now I'm inside that folder. Now if I do ls, I'll see that I have that file there. Now if I want to run that file, I would do python 3. Now if I just did python and I did hello Mac, oh, that worked okay. Sometimes you have to do python 3. I thought we'd have to do python 3 there. Or you could also do python 3. If you get an error, you might have to do python 3. I usually get in the habit of doing that. And that does the same thing. So whether you use Python, just check that out. If you get an error when you do Python, then just make sure you do Python 3. So that's doing the output just like what was happening here in the Python shell. So again, nothing too exciting to start, but you just want to check out that you could do that. So again, to review, in here we just had to navigate to our directory by doing cd. So it takes a little more work if you're deep inside a lot of folders. You got to do a lot of CDs. I just did ls to list my directory, list the files that are in there, and then cd to change it. We'll deal more with that later. That's not a big deal right now because we're not going to be doing a whole lot in terminal. And again, if you want to learn more about using these bash commands, I'd recommend Learn Python the Hard Way by Zed Shaw. Has a whole kind of free series on that, of little exercises on doing that, so you learn some of these commands. You don't need to learn a whole lot of them, but it's nice to know your way around the terminal a little bit. A lot of these work the same way in Windows PowerShell as well. So I'm going to close up terminal now that we have Python installed, and I'm going to close up idle. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and install VS Code because we're going to be using that more for code. So I'm going to go to I'll just search here for VS Code, and I'm going to download it for Mac, the newest version. So here's my Visual Studio Code app. It's in downloads right now, and I'm just going to drag it into my applications. And from my applications, I'm also going to scroll down, and I'm going to drag it into my dock just so I have it available. I'll put it down here. I might move it around, but I'll put it in here right now. And I'll launch it. I'll just show you a quick preview of Visual Studio Code. You'll have release notes, and they updated quite a bit. It's free. You don't have to pay for it. And it's not the full Visual Studio, it's Visual Studio Code, so it can be used for web development and Python as well. There's extensions that you have to install to make it do the things that we need it to do. So let me close up release notes. Let me close up the welcome. I'll go over more Visual Studio Code later. One thing that you may want to do with Visual Studio Code just to get you started is to go to your extensions, which are these down here. I'm not sure what that icon exactly is. And they'll recommend some extensions here. Or you could just search, and if you just search for Python, you're going to see the one from Microsoft, and that's the easiest one to install. And it looks like it's enabled already. Older versions didn't used to have to install it, but it looks like it's installed already. And you might want to install some other things, but for now, that's all you probably need to start if that's installed. It doesn't have the little install button next to it, so it looks like it's already installed, which is something new. So that's good. So I can get out of there. So that's all you're going to really need to do for Visual Studio Code. Keep in mind, Visual Studio Code does have a terminal built in here. So it'll do the same thing that you could do in terminal. You don't necessarily have to open up terminal and check things. You could do the same thing in here. You could run files from here. So I could go in here. I'll go to CD, Document. Now, you won't always have to do this. We'll be able to open a folder. And then you could go CD, Python, I believe. And now I could run files through here. So now that I'm in that folder, I could just say Python, and let's see if this needs Python 3. And I guess it was just hello mac.py. And there it is. That worked okay, so I didn't have to use Python 3, so that's good. And also in here, we're going to be able to open folder so that it always defaults to the folder that you're working in. We'll go over more of that when we go over Visual Studio Code, but just to get you started so that we have all our tools ready, so you're all set to go, especially if you're working on a Mac. So if you're not working on Windows, we'll start digging into Python on our next video.